school districts. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much. So my name is Anna Giordano. I started my my journey into school recycling in 2010 when I went into the school district where my kids were, and I saw that they were fed on styrofoam trays and they mindlessly threw everything away. And the mindlessness about their behavior was really got me started, in addition to the fact that mountains of garbage was generated. And I presented prepared a little PowerPoint for you. I'm going to share my screen to show you.
Oop, Anna, you're on mute. We can't hear you, but we can see your screen. Let's see if I can unmute you. Oh,
can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Let me get to my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so this was the starting point. I went into the different schools and I realized that not just that the kids were completely mindless about throwing away their stuff, but also the result were mountains and mountains of garbage bags. The custodians did nothing else but just bag up stuff and carry it outside. So this amount of trash is from one lunch in one school of about 1,000 kids. And I looked at that and I said, we cannot possibly do that. Teach our children that whatever they touch is garbage, and to have results like this. And so I looked at garbage out of schools. What you're seeing on your screen now is the garbage coming out of a school in 1 week. The white bags are the lunch garbage. The black bags is the building garbage, the classroom garbage with 1,000 kids. And it's just unbelievable. I looked at that and I did a lot of analyzing of what it is. And in there is obviously packaging material, paper, and food. And the solution to that is teach the kids to be responsible for what they do. So I, with a little bit of trial and error, started a recycling station. Instead of having the kids go to a garbage can and just dump everything, I taught them about the fact that most of the materials that they toss are a little bit like Lego. If they're put in the right bin, they can be taken out of that bin and used again for something valuable. So this is what a recycling station looks like. Every school has a little bit of different setup depending on how they want to do it. Just bins. Some have very fancy stainless steel tables. Some have this set up here. But the point is very easy. The kids start with going to the right side of this particular station, empty their liquids in the bucket. 25% of the weight from lunch waste is liquids. The container then, 90% of the containers are fully recyclable. So they would be then, after being emptied, going into the recycling bin right next to it. Then the center bin with the gray sign is the trash bin, which really is only soft plastic wrappers, single serve plastic baggies, pouches of that kind of stuff. And then their tray would be devoid of any packaging and would only have leftover on it some napkin or food or maybe a paper boat. They dump that into food and paper and they stack their tray. It's something they learn very quickly. And this is the result of it. The same amount of garbage that I showed before. Once it is sorted, this is what it looks like from 1,000 kids. In the green bin, is all their food waste condensed and all of their trays stacked very neatly. The 4 bags against the wall are the recyclables that then go to the recycling center. And the bag in front of it, the small black bag, is the fluffy, soft plastic that comes out of a lunchroom. This gives you some idea. So this is data from White Plains, but I have the same kind of reduction and diversion rates from all the school districts that I am in and was in. So we're looking at a diversion of 98. Some are as 95%. So from 277 pounds of garbage per lunch down to 5, because all the remaining stuff is either excess liquid, recyclable, compostable, or untouched food. So this is really the only stuff that's left over for trash, this kind of packaging. And we are using this knowledge also to send messages home, encouraging not to use plastic baggies, encouraging parents to not send portion-sized cookie bags, and definitely go away from Capri Suns. Because lunch waste composition, when we're looking at it, 62% of that is compostable. That's the mixture of trays and leftover food. Most of our schools run the federal school programs, so they have required components to take. And so 62% of it is compostable. 23% or 23 pounds of this amount was the excess liquid, is the amount of milk and juice that the kids are given and are not consuming. 7% is untouched food. It is the stuff that the kids take or are given that they did not even intend to open and try. And only 5% in weight, but about 60% in volume is they're commingled. And only 3% is non-recyclable, non-compostable. That is what lunch waste in the schools look like. So instead of sending this entire mountain of garbage to the incinerator, we could be sending only 3% of it. This is what it looks like. The untouched food that is sorted out at the lunch station. That's the stuff the kids take or are given that they did not consume. And it's copy paper boxes of fresh fruit, fruit cups, and milks. So we created a whole system, and it's very hard to actually deal with the untouched food. So we have a share basket set up in the lunchroom, so where the kids deposit the foods that they got but didn't intend to eat. It had to be either commercially wrapped or pre-packed from the kitchen untouched. It has to be organized by the either the cleaners or the monitors to make sure that it is clean and untouched indeed and all that. But we have some good results for share basket items in the sociodemographically weaker districts, that the older kids do come back to take a second one. Our biggest issue is that the pandemic returned breakfast back into the classrooms. And breakfast and lunch are now free in most school districts, which means all the food items are sent out at all times, and they come back as untouched and returned. So what you're seeing on your screen there is a whole paper bag of Cocoa Puffs, lots of juices, lots of crackers, lots of other things. That is one day of breakfast items returned. And they would have been discarded if I hadn't taken them out of the system, because there's this issue of untouched food having left the custodianship of the food service, and they don't want to take it back. So those are the problems. In order for us to do this project in school, and I'm going to stop sharing now and go back to, I'm going to close. Okay, can you see me again? Okay, so for us to get this going in schools, it is very difficult first to get into the school district. So getting in is really one of the hardest things. But then it is a teach the village process, teaching the kids about how to save the world and for them to be the biggest part of this and for them to be a role that matters is very simple. Just today, I was teaching a bunch of kindergartners about saving the world. And boy, were they excited about sorting correctly, suddenly being aware of what they had in their hands, suddenly being aware that their actions mattered and they made a difference. It was really, really cute. So starting awareness about your own behavior is really, it's got to be in the schools, but it is so hard to get in there. So.
Thank you so much, Anna. And it looks like we may actually have some questions already. I see a hand up. Richard Cantor, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes. Hello, Anna. I really applaud what you've done, but I want to let you know that the single most shocking thing of everything in your slides was the absolute atrocious food that we're serving to these kids. We have tremendous problems in this country with obesity, with health, with diabetes, and we're starting to see those problems at younger and younger ages. If possible, can you put back on the screen that shot that you had of all the packages of Oreos and Fritos and everything else? It is a crime that that's what we're feeding to our children. So again, I applaud you.
The Oreos and Fritos is the stuff that is coming from home. This is not being served in the schools. That's the stuff that they bring as snacks from home.
Well, then we have a big education beyond recycling to go back into the homes and what they're feeding children. What of the foodstuffs are provided by the system, and what is compared to what is coming from home?
Well, the federal school lunch program is actually very controlled, and it has a good basis. So the nutritional values of the foods that they're supposed to be getting with the low-fat milk and the fresh fruit versus canned fruit and the multigrain carbohydrates and all that, it is very well organized. However, we are having commercial food service providers in the system that are in there for the buck.
Well, I guess, and what I'm asking you then, you know much more about it than I do for sure. What is happening with children's diets? And by the way, low fat for children is not, our standard American diet, the SAD diet, is poisoning these kids. So that needs to be addressed as a separate issue. But I'm quite concerned what the system through commercial organizations or businesses or whatever, and you mentioned that this is very tightly controlled. How do we get to the sources that control what they're feeding these kids?
Richard, thank you so much for your questions. These are really valid concerns, but I don't want us to get sidetracked because I think there are folks who want to learn a little bit more about how we can get these kinds of projects and ensure that we can get to a 3% trash rate for our schools, as Anna had displayed in some of her other cases. So, Anna,
Okay.
I want to invite you
At another session, can we deal with this issue?
I want to invite Anna to put her email in the chat so that way you can feel free to reach out to her. And if she does have any more information on that issue specifically, I invite you to have that conversation with her. But I do see that we have a couple of other hands up, and I want to make sure we have time for everyone. Judy, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I just want to mention an experience I had a few years ago. I think it was before COVID. I was talking about composting to a group of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders, mostly from Scarsdale. And I talked about the wheelabrator and the waste, and they were all gung-ho. They got it. They knew exactly what the problem was. And I said, how can we deal with this? This one kid says, waste less. So that was a good idea. The kids get it. Well, who doesn't get it are the staff in the lunchrooms. So several kids said in their school, which I believe is Scarsdale, they have bins for composting and recycling, and everything is separated out nice, and they do an excellent job. And then as they dawdle around a little bit, some of them, they see the staff taking everything that they've separated nicely and throwing it in the trash. And I'm
Can I
wondering,
say something to that,
I mean,
Judy?
yes, yes.
Okay, so what you're describing has happened in school districts. I know Scarsdale well. They
Huh.
did they did have a food waste pickup system for a long time. They during the pandemic, it was like snooze. Nobody actually did the food waste pickup at that point. But they did continue to sort in some of the lunchrooms for continuity.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was before COVID. I'm glad you're on top of it.
Yes.
We just wanted to share that um, a lot of the staff in the lunchroom don't get this education, and they frankly are maybe overworked, or they don't care, or they don't get it, or they're just annoyed because it's different. So it's just an area, and I'm sure you've dealt with it.
It is it is it's very true that when I go into schools, I have to educate the monitors, the kitchen staff, and the custodians. And the biggest pushback I do get from exactly that adult group. However, and that is why it is so important that a company like mine is in a school district like that, because if you are a volunteer mom that goes in to help with this project, you have no option to actually change anything in the system. You have no authority to go and teach food service people to put their food waste in compost rather than in the garbage.
And
And
then
that was the reason why in 2014, after volunteering for years in my kids' schools, I decided I needed to incorporate, because otherwise there is no systemic change. You're only going to be viewed as this mom who has too much time on her hand. But I can promise you that in the schools where I am in, I am on a regular basis. Whenever I go to a school, I check the back bins. I check the bags that are in the garbage container. I go back to the custodians and say, I'm not sure why all of this recyclables is here in this bin. Can you tell me about it? And that is what makes change in the school district, that they know that I check.
I think you're doing a fabulous job. And I really applaud you for for incorporating and doing this wonderful work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, for those comments. We are very appreciative that we have Anna working on this and here tonight to share about all the amazing work she's done. I also want to recognize that we have Assemblymember Steve Otis here. Assemblymember, thank you so much for making the time to join us tonight. I see your hand is up. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself.
Sure. Well, I really want to compliment Anna for her great work. And in different areas, I've worked on this issue. And curious, Anna, what your entree was. But let me share. I used to be chair of the Legislative Commission on Solid Waste Management. So I met with a number of people in different communities in Westchester who are going and intervening in their school districts to try and promote these kinds of changes. And I think for everyone on the call today that are in different communities, one question is, what's the best way to get these changes to occur? What I have found in the people that I've spoken to is generally people have gone and met with school board members, or gone to school board meetings, or met with the school superintendent and try to get them on board with a change in practices, with certainly food waste composting, and then eliminating non-recyclable items, or things like styrofoam is just a hard even hear that piece of it. But there are transitions that can be made And how you get from point A to B, in my experience, has been people really going to meet with that school board and talking some sense into them. And that way, the transition is easier if the people at the top buy in, and parents are usually very good messengers for that message. So, Anna, curious, when you started this work, did who did you approach first? Did you go to those folks, or did you deal with the cafeteria staff initially? I'd be curious what you did and which methods you found successful.
Well, first I went to my principal at the time, who was brand new and who was completely overwhelmed taking over an elementary school with 1,000 kids and having me knocking on his door on his second day of the job saying, how can we feed kids on styrofoam? And he was nice enough to say, well, just do it. And so in our elementary school, I was allowed to try out what kind of system might work in order to teach 1,000 kids to sort their waste efficiently and fast, because you always have the time issue of lunch is only half an hour and we got to get them out and we got to get the next crew in and all that. So my principal was the first one. Once I had it running in that school with my supervision and no support from the custodial staff, but I knew it is possible to do that. Then I went to the school board meeting and they knew me and they saw me every month. And they were already looking forward to me. But it took 4 years for the superintendent and 2 superintendents for them to say, all right, we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and to actually hire me to do that. And from then on, it was much, much easier to show other school districts that if it's possible in this kind of school district with the elementary school of 1,000 kids, it can be done in an elementary school of 500 kids and 600 kids and whatever else. But nowadays, with my track record, I have a chance to go to the board or a board member. Sometimes I know a teacher and I go through the chain to get up to the superintendent of business.
And Anna, any of the districts you're working with, are they using the anaerobic composting method for the food waste, or they're just shipping it out to the county?
They're shipping it out to the county. Every single one would love to have a better option because they are not allowed to use the county system, right? They have to pay an extra carter in order to get it to the county site, which is right now in Cortland, right? So they cannot feed into their town pickups and have the county take the cost of actually shipping it to Cortland. That is one of the factors of why Yonkers is not starting. Yonkers has reached out to me for the longest time, but they said it is cheaper for them to trash it than to pay for the extra service to bring it up to Cortland. If they could feed it into the Westchester County food waste system and have no cost with it, they would start the program.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. Back to you, Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Assemblymember Otis. And I do want to just also bring to your attention and the attendees' attention that it looks like Mary Hogue from Sustainable Fairfield made a point to say that in Connecticut, they did pass a law in their last session that's starting on January 1st of 2025. Schools, for the most part, it's based on volume, will be required to compost. So there are policies that we can pass on the state level to ensure that there is a road towards these kind of practices that are standardized across our state. And we would love to see you, Assemblymember Otis, championing something like this. So I do hope that perhaps you and Mary can connect in case that's something that you're interested as well. But thank you so much for being here.
Get me some information on that. The reason I mentioned the composting is a school district, if they were to do composting on some part of their property, they actually save money by not having to have the food waste carted somewhere else. So there are actually economic savings for school districts depending on how they shape their transition to better practices.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they're absolutely.
I've talked to White Plains. Can I answer to Steve?
Absolutely, Anna.
So, Steve, White Plains is very, very active in that. The reason why they cannot do on-site composting is because of the enormous amount of paper products that schools have. If it was just food waste, it would be possible to do that. But nearly 50% of their compostable items is paper products. And unless we have a shredder in the system and it's being really organized in terms of the composting, it cannot be done as a waste management system within the school district on school district ground.
Thank you, Anna, for that point. So it looks like we still have a bunch of questions. I'm going to call on the folks that have their hands up, and then I'll move over to the chat. Ellen Weininger.
Hi, good evening. And thank you, Anna. It's a great presentation. I know that you have worked with school districts and have really gotten into the metrics with them and talked about the economics and the cost savings. And while we understand the underlying importance of zero waste practices and shutting down the wheelabrator and not incinerating our trash and really doing the right thing, you have been able to really lift up the economic benefit. And if you could get into that a little bit, it could be very interesting and help to incentivize some of the school systems that may be hesitating because they think this is going to be something that's pricey when it is something that ultimately does save money.
So the problem lays in how school districts deal with their garbage. A lot of school districts are being picked up for free from their village or their town, which means their budget does not actually have a budget line item for garbage disposal for them. Whereas once they start the recycling program, they have to pay for food waste pickup because that is not covered by their town or their village, which means it actually creates a budget line item. We can justify that budget line item with the social and the environmental and the educational portion. They're obviously in the business of educating and also socially educating their children. But it is very difficult to get that in as the first step. I have been to George Latimer to ask and beg for seed money for these school districts to pay for the at least half of the first year's investment to kind of get them started. Do some sort of a give back grant to them saying, if you make this happen, we'll give you back this, or we'll support you with that. But I was being told that it's not possible to do some sort of school district government to county government type financial support to get over the first hump of getting for these kind of costs.
Thank you, Anna. And next we have Kiko.
Thank you. Hi, Anna. Thanks for sharing your experience with us. My question is something you referenced earlier. One of the biggest problems with school lunch is the 30-minute window that the students have to eat. Any tricks of the trade that you've found most useful for, getting youngsters to sort in that time, while also having the time to eat? What has worked best for you? And is there any age elementary wise that's just too young to sort in your mind during that period of time?
I have had no problem. Kindergartners will take a little bit uptake to kind of get fluid with it. My goal is to make it as easy as possible at the table. So I'm teaching the monitors to teach the kids to be prepared for the next step. It's a life lesson that they can learn right in the lunchroom, that they prepare their tray before they get up to sort it nicely. It takes a little bit of time to teach them that, but they get it. And so for kindergarten, my monitors are preparing their trays and they're telling them that the fork goes here to sort it. And if you put all the food waste here, and then you put your milk carton right here, so that it is just one grip, one hand to do the job, and they don't have to stand at the station to kind of fizzle something apart. So I would say kindergartners will take about a month to be fluid. If you ask monitors to get away from this very strict setup of class by class cleanup dismissal and waiting for all the kids to be done before you allow a kid to go and clean up, that is really the goal. You're dealing in school districts with the home lunch kids versus the school lunch kids. The home lunch kids, as they sit down, they eat, they're done within 7 minutes. They sit around. By that time, most of the school lunch kids haven't even returned back to the table with their trays. So allow the kids to get up and clean up as they wish, even if it means that they go and clean up the chip bag first, and then they come up another time to bring the milk carton over. I learned that the free flow, once they know what to do, is really the most efficient one. And other than that, I really don't have any time problems anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pico. Thank you, Anna. Stephanie, I see your hand is raised as well.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
I'm a mom volunteer for the last many years in the Byram Hills School District in Armonk, North Castle. And for about 10 years, we've had the similar tables that you showed in your photo. And it's, for the most part, aside from COVID, was very successful. We definitely had our challenges. Our biggest challenge is getting into the middle school and high school to monitor them to make sure the students are there. The principals tell us the students don't want the parents there, and that's one of our biggest pushbacks is moms aren't welcome. And we have a very passionate volunteer group through sustainability. We all do it for free. We have about 5, 6 of us that are willing to be there nearly every day if we had to. But do you have advice on that is one of my questions. And I also didn't know if you were familiar with TerraCycling, which would help eliminate the other issue. And if you wanted to, since you're nodding your head yes, you can share a little bit about that, or I can put the link in, because we also include TerraCycling, and we were able to have it as part of our sustainability budget for our district to include TerraCycling collection in Byram Hills.
So this is not unusual that middle schools don't want parents in there. I have lots of elementary schools that don't want parents in there either. There are lots of issues going hand in hand, of course. So if a school district has adopted a program to the level that they allow you for years to be in the lunchroom, I think they should put the money down and make it part of the custodial staff to supervise a middle school and high school, definitely a high school setup. It makes it easier for the custodial staff once they have it going, and the more they support it, the easier they have it on the back end, because they'll only have to clean up the station once. So it is worthwhile to go to the principal of the middle and high school, I don't know if they're in the same building, and slightly put your foot down, saying that this must be with them, that you say, please have custodian support this, because we just established the correct behavior with the little ones that are going into your school district for continuity purposes. We need them to continue this, and it needs to be supervised. It works in my schools. So White Plains, Mount Vernon, it works. There are some schools where they stop it after elementary school. That's Rye Neck, for example, which is very upsetting. So I know your problem, and I wish I could solve it.
Thank you. And I also wanted to comment, answered part of Judy's question. In our 3 through 5 school, because we have a K through 2 and a 3 through 5 school, our assistant principal, we're very lucky to have a rock star assistant principal who's supporting us a lot. But she has designated lunch monitors in each of the 3 lunches, 1 per each lunch starting this year, who's specifically going to be responsible for assisting the students when the parent volunteers cannot be there. And in addition to that, we also have a training program with our students called Cafeteria Captains for the 3 through 5 school, where every Monday they are there, or they're actually there all month. The parents are there on Mondays, and then they help those students. And then volunteer students are there every day. Once they're done their lunch, they go to those tables and they assist their peers. And that's at the 3 through 5 school. And we had that a little bit in the middle school before COVID, and we're working on getting that back up in the middle school as well.
Amazing. Stephanie, it sounds like you're doing incredible work. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to point out that Melissa Brady is saying in the chat that she would love to chat with you about how to incorporate recycling into their budget as well. So please, I encourage folks to share your emails in the chat if you want to connect. It sounds like there's some really incredible connections here. And I'm glad that so many people have been activated around this topic tonight. It does seem like we no longer have any hand raises, but I know that there's a number of comments and questions in the chat, so I'll just quickly go through those. Courtney Williams asked, how much does it cost to set up a sorting station? And I don't know if you have an answer.
I didn't hear you. Did you just speak to me? Because you were breaking up a little bit. Say that again.
Yes. Can folks hear me? Yeah. The question
I can hear you now better.
The question was how much does it cost to set up a sorting station?
So the recycling station itself is often the same amount, the same bins that are used within the district. Often enough, you have to buy one different bin because most of the barrels that they're using are 55-gallon barrels, and they are just too big for food waste. So you have to buy a 30-gallon bin, which is, I don't know, $23 at Home Depot, in order to accommodate the much smaller food waste bins. You have to buy a $5 bucket and a strainer. And then you have to pay for food waste pickup, which runs at $350 or something like that a month per building for the pickup. And that's for 10 months. And then depending on who runs the program, because it is absolutely not possible to do it by memo, just telling the custodians to kind of run it. It has to be supervised either by dedicated parent volunteers or by professionals like my staff, in order to get custodians to support the system. Once we train the kids, which we do for 2 weeks hands-on, after that, we come back on a regular basis to make sure that custodians and students maintain that behavior. So those are the costs that are involved.
So much, Anna. A couple of other questions we have in the chat. This is from Neil Seldman. Neil, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us tonight. His question is, can we get anti-incineration information in the hands of school-age children? Can we teach them that the incinerator is hurting nature and people?
I did not hear that. Very quickly. Where's the question?
I'll repost it in the chat, so it'll be kind of the latest thing that pops up, but it's, can we get anti-incineration information in the hands of school-age children? Can we teach them that the incinerator is hurting nature and people?
Vanessa, there's a
wrote up, unfortunately. Could you
post what information? That's the word I missed.
Incineration, anti-incineration information in the hands of...
Thank you. Sorry. Thanks.
No worries.
Oh, okay.
Did you get?
I teach my kids about what happens to garbage, and I show them what a landfill looks like, and I show them a picture of the Peekskill incinerator and tell them that that puts smoke into the air that they breathe. I want to make sure that the students realize that garbage does not go away, that it is always around us, and it teaches them now and every second. And unless we do something about it, it teaches them, it touches them. And so I do teach them about how garbage, yeah,
That's
what happens to garbage. I also teach them about litter and show them.
Yes, thank you so much for filling me in on that. I appreciate it. And I'd like to talk to you, not now, but get in touch to find out what reaction children have to that information, specifically about incineration. It would be very helpful for me. So I'll get in touch tomorrow or Friday. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Neil. A couple of other questions. Some of these are more comments from Melissa. In our district, the district teaches sorting and has a system for sorting. We weigh and send our compost every week. I'm curious to know if anyone has had success with repurposing the food that goes uneaten, or has worked with TerraCycle or companies like it who are providing waste collection for packaging that can't be recycled in the regular waste stream. And I'll copy and paste that question in case Anna, you didn't hear that.
I have a hard time understanding. It's like breaking. I'm not sure if that was a question towards me.
Yes, I'm reposting the questions that have been asked in the chat on the top of the chat. So if you just look to see the post I'm making, those are the questions that we still have left to get answered.
Okay, let me get there. I don't see it at the top of the chat. Scrolling through the chat to see where.
The very bottom, the latest post.
Yes. So the question, maybe my connection's clearer. In our district, we teach sorting, and our district has a system for sorting. We weigh and send our compost every week. I'm curious to know if anyone has had success with repurposing the food that goes uneaten, or has worked with TerraCycle or companies like it who provide waste collection for packaging that can't be recycled in the regular waste stream.
Okay. So I had, in the beginning, I used TerraCycle for pouches and things like that. I stopped at some point because I did not want to convey the concept to the children that it is better to bring a TerraCycle pouch in because it brings 2 cents to the school. I was more teaching that packaging like that is unrecyclable and a water bottle is a better solution. And I make a big deal in my presentation about why a juice pouch is horrible compared to a water bottle. I think TerraCycle has great things, but I found that it really only works if you have dedicated people taking care of that stuff and shipping it out. And if you want to do many school districts, including those that are socioeconomically not quite as well funded and don't have parents that can spend their time in lunchrooms, you cannot get these kind of things to be organized on a regular basis. So I try to keep it as simple as possible in most school districts out of the path. The leftover food, it is impossible to repurpose or donate cooked but unserved food. I tried that through the different second harvest programs that we have in Westchester County. So even if you have like half a sheet of pasta with sauce left over, it was impossible for me to find an avenue to donate that. So what I am able to do, and that again depends on the monitors and the social worker in the school, is to have the share basket packed up and sent home as goodie bags. That's the one thing that I was able to get organized on a regular basis in some. Other than that, I tell the monitors and the custodians and the kids, take some extras, do it for after school, or use it in any way you wish. But it is really hard to organize that leftover food.
I think it's great that you came up with the idea and that you're implementing it. I really commend you. It's hardcore.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. I'm going to take over with reading the questions from Vanessa, since my connection seems to be clearer. Mary Hogue from Sustainable Fairfield put in the chat the link to the Connecticut law requiring composting in schools starting in 2025. And we have Steve Otis on with us, so maybe he wants to click through on that, and we could replicate that here in New York State, and that can help move things along there.
I already downloaded it.
We have the law on the books. We have the law on the books, and then last second, the schools were taken out of it. They were exempt from it.
All right, so let's fix that.
Food waste law requires. Yes, definitely. If we can take the exemptions for school districts out of that law and require them to do what big companies have to do in New York, we'd be in much better shape.
So I had a question about, the county has put out a considerable effort to expand food scraps recycling. And I'm wondering if any of the schools you work with, if their communities, like Yonkers in particular, they actually just launched a pilot program that was kind of spearheaded by a member of this task force to do basically allow some of the apartment buildings to be a pickup site for curbside recycling. And I'm wondering if the expansion of food scraps recycling in Westchester would allow more schools to compost. Like, I'm thinking of Yonkers, like if there's a way that now that Yonkers is doing food scraps recycling, that the municipality could pick up the compost from the school. Have any of them revisited since the county expanded food scraps recycling?
Yes, every one of them is knocking on the door of the county, and the county says school food waste cannot be integrated into the county's pickup. That is the big issue. That is why Yonkers has not started.
So maybe a question for County Executive Latimer, and something, Erica Pierce and some of our other advocates can push for. Let's see. Lee just put a question in chat. Hi, Anna. I work at an elementary school in Westchester County. I also potentially will be running an after-school club at our school, focusing on sustainability, waste, and recycling. Our school and district currently sort the garbage produced and use compostable forks and spoons. I'd really like to chat with you and get more ideas, as we have much room for growth. So maybe an opportunity for Anna to put her email in the chat again, so that everybody has it, and the website for We Future Cycle. And then Kiko has their hand up. Kiko, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. My other question is what your thoughts are, Anna, on compost bins in individual classrooms? In classrooms where meals are eaten, or in classrooms where only snacks are eaten. Yeah, there are obviously pros and cons, and wondering what your experience is with that.
So I tried that, and I had varying success. So what I did was, in addition to the lunchroom program, once I had it really nicely going and the school was like super green and very involved, and we did lots of different other programs, I instituted a waste-free snack program that was for snack. And we made it a big deal about the kids earning leaves when they brought in a waste-free snack. So not a plastic wrap thing, not a wrapper, but in a reusable container, reusable bottle, so they would earn a leaf. And we had a big tree in the entryway where they got to put their leaf with their name on that tree. And we had a big ceremony about looking of how many leaves we have on our lovely tree. And we collected in those classrooms in tiny little 3-quart buckets, the apple cores and the banana peels and the grape ends and that kind of stuff. And we actually had 2 rolling composters in the courtyard, and the kids brought their snack food waste down to that rolling composter. And it was a job for them, and they were like fighting who was the one who's going to bring the apple cores and the banana peel from snack into that rolling composter. It was very successful, but it only worked in the schools where admin was super, super supportive, and where the teachers allowed for the concept of the kids putting their banana peel in this bucket, bringing it down, coming back up, wiping the bucket with paper towels. So it is totally possible. It is all a question of how supportive the school community is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. So I do know Dan has his hand up. Before we go to him, since it is a little bit after 8:30, I just wanted to do a plug for our community potluck. So we are having an end of summer community potluck next Wednesday in Peekskill at the riverfront, which is picturesque if you look northward upriver to the highlands, and less picturesque if you look downstream to the trash incinerator and the nuclear plant. But that is where we are gathering. And I hope that all of you will join us. I put the link to the Facebook event there. Please RSVP, share it with your community, and it'll be a great opportunity. You know, there's so much activity in the chat when we have our zero waste task force meetings, but not really a chance for us to chat with one another. So this is really an opportunity. And if you make something that you want to bring to share, please let us know. We are working to make it as close to zero waste as possible. So bring your reusable water bottle and cups and silverware and things like that. It should be a really nice time. It is under a pavilion, so even if it's rainy or dreary, we'll be covered. So with that invitation extended to all of you, Dan, are you still on? Do you want to ask your question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, first of all, some of you may know me and some may not, but I'm in the reuse business. Urban Ore deals with reusable goods. Last year, we sold $3.5 million worth. We're based on at a transfer station. We move materials from the transfer station to our place. We have a 3-acre site with a 30,000 square foot building. We started very humbly at the landfill a long time ago, but basically being started at the landfill, what I was able to do was figure out that there's just about everything that goes to landfill or to Wheelabrator is recyclable other than some forms of plastics. So you could have a zero waste kind of facility, but you have to design for it. So my question, I think, for you is, what are you doing about, I've been on a call before with Westchester, but right now I can't think of how you folks have decided or what you've decided to do about redesigning your existing transfer station facilities. Because if they're now feeding the incinerator, they are not set up for zero waste. I can tell you that for sure. And in order to set it up for zero waste, it costs a lot of money. but it also can bring in way more money than wasting is doing now. So I've been in the business now for 43 years. I know Neil real well. We're buddies. So that's
Indeed, we are.
Neil was best man at my wedding.
Yes, and thank you both for participating in our events in the past. We're really grateful, and we've learned a lot from you. So one of the things we know full well that our system is fed up to funnel everything to the trash incinerator. So what we've been working on is participating. There's a lot of money coming from both the federal and the state government for environmental justice communities. And like there's the Environmental Bond Act that New York State just passed. So what we have been doing for those is pushing for that money to be spent to make the kinds of changes that we need to become a circular economy. So we know it's going to take a lot of money, and there is a lot of money to be had, especially for EJ communities. So we've been advocating for that. We've also been advocating on the state level for in the state's solid waste plan that's happening. The planning's happening right now. We've been submitting comments on those, all of that. New York State is one of, I think it's tied with Florida for the most trash incinerators of any state in the country. And so the state as a whole is really reliant on trash incineration, and we are advocating to change that, to have them understand that incineration is worse than landfilling, especially if you do your work and divert the organics and the food scraps from the landfill, then really hands down, no comparison, trash incineration is much worse. At the county level, our main focus right now is a kind of don't take our word for it approach. So oh, sorry, I didn't realize my video was turned off. I'm like talking to my screen and nobody can see me. So we're taking a don't take our word for it approach for the county, which they said they would do when they passed their budget in December, to hire a certified zero waste consultant that will study our exact waste stream and tell us exactly how to go about changing it to one that supports zero waste. And so we have had meetings with County Executive George Latimer and his staff. We have another one coming up, I think, next month. And we are pushing hard for that because, you know, we're not going to get, a county like Westchester is not getting to zero waste relying on volunteers. Like they need to work, our Department of Environmental Facilities needs to buy in that incineration is bad. We've got to get to zero waste, and then work with a certified zero waste consultant that knows how to do it and can look at all the ins and outs and really analyze what we have. So that is kind of our plan. We're working on the county level, we're working on the state level, and we're working on the federal level to basically get the funding and get the system changed. Because really, you know, I tell people often, it's not a moral failing to generate garbage. Okay, like I generate garbage myself, and I'm a member of this group, founded this group. When you're living in a system that is designed to generate garbage, it's not a personal moral failing, it's a systemic failing. And so we are working on systems change for this.
Very good. Very good.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
If you will, thank you. First of all, you ladies are sensational. And I think what you're saying and doing is really resonating. I'm sure you all know that there's a major campaign in Dutchess County, which is your neighbor, of course, and in other communities that are close by but not neighbors, there are actually transition plans for how counties can shut down their incinerator in a smooth transition, taking care of the garbage. And exactly as Courtney was saying, as you start implementing zero waste, you change the quantity and quality of the waste stream. So future generations will never have to deal with what we're dealing with. And I'll be happy to share those plans. It's terrific that you're talking to the school system and to the the officials of Westchester County. And I believe that these plans, some of which Dan Knapp has helped us with in Montgomery County, Maryland, um, will make it easier for you. And certainly we're ready to share information as you get into the negotiations with your county. So thank you so much for inviting me to this meeting, and I'm learning a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And we have kind of told Westchester, other counties are doing this. Like Ulster's working on not shipping any waste and
Right.
dumping it on any other community. So he is talking to Jen Metzger and other folks. So we're trying to like show him good role models, and then encourage him to make Westchester a leader instead of a follower in that regard.
Great.
And so with that, when I know we're 11 minutes over, I've put the link. Oh, thank you. Assemblyman Otis has put his contact information in the chat. So if anybody wants to follow up, and I'm sure we will, about that school loophole for the composting, we've got our, if you want to join us, yes, a bunch of us are going to the March to End Fossil Fuels on Sunday. If you didn't know, burning our garbage is not bad enough. They use fracked gas to do it, and a lot of it from the Algonquin pipeline that runs underneath the nuclear power plant, all right here in our environmental justice community, within just like a mile of each other. We have all of those things. So I will be marching as well as a pipeline fighter, but also as a trash incineration fighter. And we've got our community potluck coming up, and I've put the We Future Cycle contact info in the chat for Anna. There's a ton of information on their website. If you want to push your district, reach out to them. They will help you do it. Anything else to add to that, Vanessa or Anna?
Can folks hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Nope, I don't have anything to add. Anna, I don't know if you have any final words. I think we're about to close up.
No, everything good. I wish Steve had a way to get some sort of seed money for school districts.
Yes, and I want to thank you so much, Anna, for making the time to be here with us tonight. I have to say, this is probably one of our most active sessions that we've had for our Zero Waste Task Force. So it's very, very clear that our members are very excited about this idea, very excited about pursuing this in their local school districts. So I really hope people will connect to Anna. If folks have any issues reaching out, please let us know. We created this task force to make these connections, and it's really lovely to see people so excited about getting this done in their own local school districts. So thank you again, Anna, and thank you all for being so present and for participating and asking such great questions. Our next Zero Waste Task Force meeting will be meeting as usual on the second Wednesday of every month moving forward. That's going to fall on October 11th for next month at 7:30 p.m. I know that there was some confusion around the Zoom links. I will send a new email so folks know which Zoom link to register on, but it is the one that we've been using for the last few months earlier this year. So if you've been coming to our Zero Waste Task Force meetings since January or before the summer, then you should be registered for that link. And then before we leave and before we end our session tonight, again, I just want to plug the invitation for you all to come out and join us for our community potluck that's going to be happening next Wednesday. We will be there, or we ask folks to join us around 5:30. We'll be there until dusk. We invite folks to bring some food to share. We'll have food there for you all. This is a family-friendly event, so if you want to bring your children, please do bring your children. We actually will have a small art making workshop that, courtesy of the retake art thrift shop that we have here locally. They'll be providing us with some supplies, and one of our local members will be running that session for us. So really hope to see you all there. I know many of us have been connecting via Zoom, so would really, oh, I'm sorry, let me retake remake is the name of the art thrift shop. Thank you. Courtney. So I really hope folks will make it so we can break bread in person and continue to organize over these very, very important issues. We will be sending out a recording of the session. And I know a lot of folks asked about that and some people joined late. So please look out for that email. But otherwise, I hope everyone has a very lovely night. Thank you again to Anna. And I hope to see you all, if not next Wednesday, then next month. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Caitlin, you gonna end for all?
Yes. I gotta stop the recording, don't I?